So, hello everybody. This is our 20th actually book which we are reading together, and I'm so happy for that. Thanks to all of you. I also end up reading so many books. And just a second. Okay. Okay, let's begin. The Lives of Others by Neel Mukherjee. So today I thought we'll see a little bit about the author, then the 1967 Naxalbari uprising, a slight glimpse into Charu Majumdar, who was he, because I think his name keeps getting repeated all through the book, and about the book, awards and recognition, and a little bit, there's been one point which he has faced some criticism for, and discussions, and we'll do the quotes. So about the author, so Neel Mukherjee was born in Calcutta. He lives in London, and he also travels, I think, every year to US because he teaches at Harvard. I think earlier he used to teach at Harvard, and recently I think he teaches at Princeton University. He was given the fellowship to the Royal Society of Literature UK after The Lives of Others. The first novel, I think I'm wrong. Shamal Raoji. It was not past continuous, it is a life apart.
No issue.
A life apart.
No issue.
I think I'm past continuous. Maybe Sarath can clarify. Past continuous, was it somebody else's book?
No, actually, I think it is the same novel only. Came out in different names.
Oh, okay. Quite possibly.
So.
Yeah, because I remember the edition which we have at home is called Past Continuous. So, yeah. So the first novel won the Writers Guild of Great Britain Award for Best Fiction. And he is also very highly educated in English and in, writing and creative writing. So he studied from Don Bosco School, Calcutta, and he studied English at Jadavpur University. He attended University College, Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship, where he studied English and graduated in 92. After that, he did his PhD, and he also has an MA in creative writing from the University of, from the University of East Anglia in 2001. So in his appreciation for Neel Mukherjee's writing, A.S. Byat, he says one of Mukherjee's great gifts is precisely his capacity to imagine the lives of others. So we'll come back to the book and the awards and recognition. Before that, I thought we'll see the history of the period he's writing about, which is the 1967 Naxalbari uprising, which started in this place called Naxalbari in Siliguri, Darjeeling. So it was basically an armed peasant revolt in 1967. It was mainly led by the tribals and the radical communist leaders of Bengal, and who are also known as Maoists. And they later it developed into the Communist Party of India, which is the Marxist-Leninist, in 1969. The armed struggle inspired the Naxalite movement, which rapidly spread from West Bengal to the other states of India too. So a little bit of the timeline. In 65-66, Maoists already controlled a lot of territory in the Naxalbari region. On 3rd March 1967, about 150 peasants armed with bows and spears took 300 mounds of paddy, which is around 11,000 kg of paddy, and started seizing land over there. On 18th March, they started seizing land from the Jyotidars. This was also in retaliation to some murder among some peasants being murdered by the Jyotidar, which is what led to that seizing land incident. Within 4 months, however, considering that the success which they faced, a lot of peasant committees were set up throughout the region. And the peasant committees, they started, seizing land, food grains and arms from the landlord gentries, and this led to violent clashes, which of course made the police come in. Once the police came in, it became even more violent. So the inspector of Jarugaon village was killed by the peasant committee members. And 25th May 1967, the police retaliated for this. They opened fire, and this resulted in the death of about 9 women and a child. After this, in 19th July, the paramilitary forces were sent by the government to crush the movement, and many leaders were arrested. Some of them went into hiding, and some of them were killed too. So Charu Majumdar, who is the founder of the Communist Party, he in fact went into hiding. And on 16th July 1972, which is nearly about 4-5 years after this entire thing, was when he was captured. And after he was captured, after 12 days, he suddenly dies in custody. And it's still not clear. They say that he died of a heart attack, but custodial murder is suspected. Charu Majumdar is the founder of the Communist Party of India, the Marxist-Leninist. So there is 2 forms. So you have the CPI-M and you have the CPI-ML. So CPI-ML is more of a radical and a more of a, they move with the peasants and they follow actual Maoist principles and stuff. While the CPI-M are more people who try to, we can say, integrate with society and also try to be more on the political front and try to not really take very radical stance. So though they are communists, they try to find a middle ground, maybe we can say, and which is what led to the split in the party as 2 different parties. So Charu Majumdar is popularly known as PM, and he was born into a progressive landlord family in Siliguri in 1918. He became a communist during the Indian independence movement. His father, in fact, was a freedom fighter. He formed the militant Naxalite cause. He authored the historic accounts of the 1967 Naxalbari uprising, and his writings, particularly, there are some 8 documents which are known as the historic 8 documents, and this has become part of the ideology which guides the movement. So, why is there so much importance for this, this particular Naxal movement? While there have been a lot of peasant uprisings right from the colonial times itself. Why is the 1967 Naxalbari uprising so important? Because this was the first time, that the uprising did not rest upon the decision of the peasants to rise against the status quo, but it was an attempt to bring together the peasant struggle along with the unemployed urban youth and the petty, I have to see how to pronounce that.
Bourgeois.
Bourgeois, yeah. Bourgeoisie, actually, I think. Bourgeois and bourgeoisie. Yeah. So, yeah, struggle with the unemployed urban youth and the petty bourgeoisie. So, bourgeoisie means middle class, upper middle class, or else. So, in the rural areas, communist cadres and students from the city collaborated with the peasants. And this is what we see in the book too. And the rural but what happened was, because of the urban youth were having their own kind of struggle, while the peasants were having a different kind of a struggle. So as this went on, the rural versus urban class division started creeping in. So what mattered to the people in the countryside was food shortage, the capitalist farming, the labor conditions, etc., the debt they were facing, and all those things. However, the issues which were mobilizing the urban population was unemployment, poor living conditions, the crisis of the academic system, etc. So initially, this started as a peasant revolt. However, it started drifting more into urban terrorism. And this shift towards terrorism and also this need to annihilate the class enemy, all these had, changed the political ideology itself of the movement, and it started verging on nihilism. So nihilism is absence of any moral feelings or, any religious or moral thoughts and feelings, which is exactly what we see happening to Supratik also after a point of time. So the action of the peasants was brought about by years of oppression. However, the urban people, the urban, youth and others who joined the movement, they did not face actually years of oppression like the peasants, but for them it was mostly frustration and anger towards the status quo. So that's why it started moving into more of a destructive venture, which is something which we see even in the book. It's these city boys who actually ask the farmers, what do you think about removing this particular person? Why don't we raid him and, burn your papers? Those years of oppression have actually completely subdued them. Despite their anger and things, they never think about killing them or, getting into such a violent, violent mood, or I should say, or to exhibit some kind of they never think of this. Why don't I burn the paper? Why don't I kill this person? It never comes to them. So the idea is first fed to them by the urban youth, even in the book. So, okay. So one or two other things which I just wanted to mention was that they've mentioned in the book that Supratik creates a bomb, and then there's a bombing or there's some derailing of trains, etc. But as far as whatever I could see in the, as far as whatever I could research and search for it, train bombings or train derailings have been, there has not been any Naxal group which has come forward and said, yes, we did this. The derailings have been attributed to them, but I'm not sure whether it's true or not. There are many good trains and stuff which has been derailed by them, of course, but passenger trains involving death of passengers, I'm not very, very sure. I couldn't find any clear ones where Naxals had actually come forward, like, usual terrorist attacks where they come forward and say, yes, this is what we did to teach you a lesson or something like that. I never saw anything of that sort. So I'm not sure if it, maybe Shamal Rao ji, who's been in the area, might have a better idea about that. Shamal Rao ji, do you want to add something to it, to add this?
No, I got it because you have well researched slides, madam. I was having a small doubt. Maybe it is hypothetical. Could this Naxalite movement could have been successful had it limited itself to farmers, land issues, further exploitation, etc., etc., instead of combining with urban unrest or student unemployment, because these two do not go together. Actually, the combination of urban plus rural could have been the main element that made the Naxalite movement to fail. That's what I feel, actually.
Yeah, right.
Had CM limited himself to these farmers' issues, because it started very strong in rural areas. When it spread to urban areas, because there are a lot of controls, police, etc., etc., it was easily crushed. But that could not happen. It had a longer life as far as this rural area is concerned, and the exploitation was very visible, immediate. Getting a job or remaining unemployed, well, it takes time to feel. But when you are exploited for 14 hours of work, actually get paid only for 1 day, and your loan gets renewed, everything exploited, the jotedars or land, the punishment or the suffering was immediate and severe. That is why it succeeded. Had Naxalite movement not combined with these urban issues, I feel actually it would have been, maybe it would have had a little longer time.
True. I think that's very true, and it's a very valid point. Maybe if they had, restricted to that, probably it would have been better. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't read much about Naxalite. Those books which you referred to, well, I had to lay my hand upon them. I have not read them, any of the books, because I was anathema, Naxalite and other things, actually. That is the thing. Okay.
I read this one called I think it's called Let's Call Him Vasu. So
Is
it's
it on-
about a journalist it's a book written by a journalist who has actually gone and lived with the Naxals, and he writes about his experience. So that was also good. And another very interesting thing I had read was a research paper which was about the lives of others. A research paper about the Naxal movement and whatever is mentioned here in the lives of others. She had actually, and it was from the University of Italy, by an Italian lady has written this research paper for her PhD. And yeah, so two of the books which she has chosen, one was The Lives of Others, and the other is Mahashweta Devi's Mother of 1084.
That is also.
Yeah. So when reading her, I've not read Mother of 1084, but reading her paper, I understood that Mahashweta Devi's book is also on a very similar theme of, it's about a mother whose son, drops out of college or whatever, he leaves home, runs away from home and joins the Naxal movement, and he's finally killed. Yes, so what the mother goes through, and, she tries to understand.
There is a movie, actually. There is a movie.
Based on this book?
Yeah, there is a movie on that Mahasweta Devi's book.
Oh,
it's there.
Great.
1084.
Oh,
it's there. It's
wonderful.
an award-winning movie, I think. It's made by Sudhir Mishra or somebody. It's there. I have watched that movie, that's why.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Then Arundhati also writes about this subject. So if you bring in Mahasweta, there's somewhere I read, these two writers have brought in with compassion the issue of tribals, exploitation, etc., etc.
Yeah. So this Arundhati Roy's book is Walking with the Comrades. In fact, I have it right now on my table. And it's so she got some special permission for taking photographs and all that. So it's got photos of the Naxals and that locality and the people around and everything. So it's a very, very, it's a small book, but it's a very well done and a very interesting book.
So I came across these two writers have written about this movement or exploitation, etc.
Oh.
Mahasweta Devi and Arundhati Roy.
Yes, correct.
As far as
yeah, and I think Mahashweta Devi's, but this book, Mother of 1084, was in fact just immediately after the Naxalbari uprising. And yeah, Neel Mukherjee's is actually at least a little later in time. So hers may be having a much more impact. I'm not sure. Maybe we should pick it up and have a read of it too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let me carry on.
Please.
Yeah. So The Lives of Others has won various awards, and it's got a lot of recognition. Yes. So in 2000, it was not shortlisted for the 2014 Man Booker Prize, the 2014 Encore Award winner, and 2014 Costa Book Award for novel. It was shortlisted for that, and it was also shortlisted for the 2016 DSE Prize for South Asian Literature.
It only goes to this much.
Aru, you need to mute yourself. Okay. Just a second. I'll just mute him. Yeah. Okay. The book was also favorably reviewed by Amitav Ghosh, A.S. Vyat, and Anita Desai, Patrick Flannery, and many other writers. Amitav Ghosh, in fact, I read it. He has put it on his blog, so he's written a very glowing review, in fact. And Anita Desai's review is in New York Review of Books. So The Lives of Others has got a lot of recognition, in fact, among the writing community too. In 2020, the Independent's Emma Lee Potter listed The Lives of Others as one of the 12 best Indian novels. The New York Times likened Mukherjee with Tolstoy in his ability to bring to life a diverse and expansive set of characters and to sharply evoke the interior world. Also, Anita Desai's review also, she has likened him, to Tolstoy and to Russian literature in the way how he has given those, those epilogues in the end where he talks about the various, relationships and how people call each other in a Bengali household. And she likens that to what is normally done in Russian literature among, where they explain why are the names in such and such manner and all that. So she said that it reminded her of that. And the one criticism which is given for The Lives of Others is that it's more of a classic bourgeois novel than an attempt to give voice to the subaltern. So they say there's no point of view of the peasants or the poor people or the downtrodden people, except in that one incident in the prologue, which is a shock. And again, towards the end, the last incident of Madan Dada's release from prison and his eventual suicide, which is also another big shock. So except for those two places where we see a glimpse into those people, otherwise there is not really on an everyday basis, or there is no character who's a general normal character. A normal poor character or a normal farmer or someone whose voice which we hear, which is a completely literary choice if you ask me. But so this is the one thing which some of them had criticized him for. Yeah, so let's take up a discussion topic. I thought we can just have a look a little bit about the farmer suicides in India, and are we doing enough, and do we know the worth of farmers and how important farming is for us? I think Ranjini would probably be able to, understand this, because I know that as a country, like for instance, in Singapore, as a country, we don't really grow anything over here. And I never realized how big that of an impact that can have, in the lives of people, I think, till I came here. So it's not like we don't get things here. We get everything at any point of time, So we get mangoes all around the year. We get strawberries all around the year. It's just that it's not the same as what we get in India where it's actually grown, So I think as a country in India, we don't appreciate farming, and we don't appreciate how great it is that we are able to grow these crops in our country itself and not rely on anyone else for it. And maybe that's why maybe farming is not getting the kind of importance it should be getting in our country. So a little bit of the statistics. The book starts with a shocking murder-suicide of a farmer, Nitai Das, sheer desperation resulting from abject poverty and hunger. Indian farmers are generally stuck in an endless cycle of debt and poverty despite all their hard work. Between 2001 and 2011, a yearly average of 16,743 deaths by suicide were recorded in farming communities in India. Farmer suicides account for 11.2% of all suicides in India. The reasons which is usually mentioned is debt, alcohol addiction, environment. Here I mean about like climate change, unreliable monsoons, etc. Low produce prices, stress, family responsibilities, apathy, poor irrigation, increased cost of cultivation, the private moneylenders, chemical fertilizers, crop failure, etc., etc., etc. One more thing which recently affected the farmers was this genetically modified cotton seeds from Monsanto. So what happened was they were genetically modified to be disease-free, pest-free, and all these things. So obviously the seed was more expensive for the farmer to acquire. However, since they didn't get enough subsidy or anything, they didn't have that. in the world market, the crop, the whatever cotton was produced from this was still, high. They had to cut down their price if they had to, be competitive. So they were only hit despite buying these seeds. And also these seeds and getting into that culture of growing cash crops instead of food crops and no crop rotation. The Monsanto seed could grow all through the season and all this stuff. They entered into this dangerous cycle of monoculture. And of course, being a cash crop, they would have preferred to grow that. And this kind of depleted the soil of all nutrients. So this was also a major reason a few years back for farmer suicides. The main reasons which are cited by activists are as the reasons why farmers are committing suicide in India and what can be done for that is the reasons they cite are anti-farmer laws, high debt burdens, poor government policies. There's a lot of corruption in the subsidies. It doesn't reach them. Crop failure. There's hardly anything much done for the mental health of farmers. They also have a lot of personal issues and family problems, which is also one of the reasons why they, commit suicide. So to be fair, on an international comparison, farmer suicide is a global phenomenon. It's not something only we find in India. Farming itself is considered as a high stress profession with a lot of uncertainty. So of course, there's a higher suicide rate among farmers than the general population around the world. It's not only in India. For example, in Sri Lanka, United States, Canada, UK, Australia. So this is a common issue all around there. However, despite all whatever we say, the Indian numbers comparatively are still alarmingly high. And according to the National Crime Records Bureau, 3,58,164 people engaged in the farming profession have committed suicide in India from 95 to 2019. Okay, so the next point which I wanted to see was about inequalities. I think we see a lot about inequalities in the book. Inequalities
We can't hear you, Archana. I can't hear you.
Second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Now we can hear.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So why do inequities of money and power deform humanity? I'm sorry, I think something is wrong. Let me just stop share for a minute. Something else is playing, right?
No, it was okay. We could.
You
see
can
that.
hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can.
Hearing something else. Just a minute. 1 minute.
Now we are able to hear you.
Is it clear now? Or
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. Let me just go back to the screen. I was hearing some song. I don't know what happened. Okay. So why do inequities of money and power deform humanity? We see this in multiple places in the book. Not only on a social level, but also in the familial institution also. So here, of course, we see the rich landlords, they're selling off the produce and the poor neighbors are going hungry, and the unfair high interest debts through which they are acquiring the land, making the person work for 14 hours on their land and telling them you have just, cleared the interest still. There's still a lot more you have to do, and not even giving them anything in return. No food, they have nothing. They just give them the basic necessary so that they don't die. they need a person, they need a laborer. So if this person dies, they're not going to get the laborer. That's all. But the same kind of inequality which is existing in the society also seems to be existing inside this middle class family unit also. So Sandhya, Adinath's wife, manages the house. And they say that after her illness, okay, Purnima, who's Priyo's wife, is going to take her place. But Purba, who is of a lower caste and who is considered as not really very equal to them. So she has to deal with the lesser tasks. She's treated more like a servant, not as a part of the family. She's banished. They have a separate living quarters. She cannot eat with the family. Her kids don't study in good schools. She's forbidden from even using dish soap to clean her plates. Now, and this quote comes this very famous quote, I would say this one is, not all family bonds are equal. Somehow, these inequalities and these divisions in them also seems to go hand in hand with that general physical and moral decay. For Adinath is an alcoholic. Suranjan is a drug addict. Priyo and his sister Chaya seem to be secretly in love. Supratik is in love with his aunt. So it's a very, very, morally also, it's a very decayed kind of family. And physically also, I think with each time, the father, the head Prafulnath, each time it looks like each time he shows his power and tries to do something to crush the people below him, he faces something in which really attacks his health or attacks his own personal life. He goes through something, which finally gets him to his physical decay, where he suffers his heart attack and is confined to bed. So somewhere it also feels like, there's, Neel Mukherjee has tried to show some kind of a justice to the system too. And also, despite Supratik being, trying to be a peasant and live with them, fight for them and everything, but even finally he steals the jewelry and he plants it in Madanda's room. He allows him to take the fall and be arrested. Even the others, despite him working for them for nearly 30 years, they stand up for him only half-heartedly. So this is like, I think possibly Supratik's action is the best example of betrayal which we can see in the middle class. Did he go down that route because of reasons of class? Because a servant stealing is so much more credible, so much more natural than a member of the family. Was it to make the theft believable to the police that he had framed Madanda? Or was it because it had cost less to betray a servant than one's own kind? So this is Supratik thinking to himself, he's questioning himself a little later. But his natural action has been to see a change, he always keeps trying to be one with the peasant. But even here, he has made a distinguish himself from the servant. So one's own kind and the servant. So let me stop the screen share, and in case anyone wants to add something, we can. And then we'll go to the quotes.
You spoke of organic farming.
Okay, yes.
In this case, 2 points I would like to recollect this Sri Lanka crisis. They switched over all of a sudden to this organized farming at the advice of one Vandana Shiva. She was the advisor to President of Sri Lanka to switch over to organized farming without any preparation or infrastructure being put in place. And further, as number 2, as far as farmers' issues are concerned, if you look at P. Sainath, and he has an association called PARI, you can Google and find out. He spoke voluminously about farmers, their issues and other things. He's very educated. He speaks also very well on that, supporting solid and concrete data as far as things are concerned. That is about organic farming and other things.
So is it What do you feel, Shamal Rawji? Is it a very valid point or is it not? Organic, is it?
No, it is a valid point. We can have it in place only with putting adequate infrastructure in place. You can't impose it suddenly. And since our what I call farmers are accustomed to conventional farming, major must be for them 80% or 70%, that's it, and 30% organic farming. One cannot have 100% organic farming. Two things. One, the process are new and our farmers will put in an inadequate, what I call the wrong position to support it. Number two, it is costly also. Those things, and with that, without adequate wherewithal, jumping into this, even Malaysia, which implemented, they didn't do it all of a sudden 100%. They took a portion, they did, even that small portion also they were facing problems. Even when I visited some vegetable stores in America, I found actually 2 or 3 shelves maximum for organic farming. Rest of things are only conventional, and many things come from Mexico there. Maybe I can be a wrong thing, but because the output I saw in the malls, actually, I conclude maybe 70% that's it, 30% is there. And such a rich country, America. What about us actually? If you switch over immediately, maybe good for health. How many can afford? Your normal vegetables, we are not in a position because we have so many poor people. So what I suggest is a judicious distribution of this organic farming is required along with conventional farming. That is my feeling. I can be wrong. I have immediate data to support it because that was something suddenly it has come during the course of discussion.
So I heard Vandana's name.
Vandana Shiva. She has triggered this fall as far as farming and other issues are concerned in America. Ultimate fall of the day. President had to leave the country. That is one of the reasons. And they had not been able to recycle that loan. They could not pay. And COVID has come and the tourism, which is the main bread earner for them, also went into doldrums. These are the 3-4 issues that drove Sri Lanka to mess. And this Indian hand is there through Vandana Shiva. She's a very good speaker actually. I heard her also. And one of the speeches are very volatile. But if you look at P. Saina's speeches, actually, you'll have a better idea of Indian farmers, their issues. And he has got a site, Pari, like that. PARI.
PARI.
PARI, P for Puri. It is the People's Archive of Rural India. Like that. More maximum focus is on rural India only he speaks. And he is very intelligent. There is a way presentation things. The data he brings out wonderful. As a matter of fact.
Yes. You'd like to add anything, Tulika, Suchi, Ranjini?
I haven't read the book. I'm sorry. Even though you gave more time, but I was also traveling to India, and then my whole of July went in COVID and recovering from COVID. So,
oh my God, I didn't know that. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, much better. Even my voice is much better. It was quite severe, as in it took a long time to get the energy back, and the cough was there for a long time. Anyway, those are excuses, but continue with your discussion. I'm very interested to hear more.
Did you like it, Tulika?
Yeah, I liked it. In fact, Suchi and I were discussing the other day. We have our own book club every time we read together. So we were saying how well researched the book is. As in, when he talks about the work in the fields, he knows the nitty-gritties. When he talks about the paper and pulp industry, he knows every little detail. So I don't know. I wanted I don't know why I didn't think about it, but looking up his biography, how does he know even the gems and jewelry business? He knows such intricate details about the thing that was very impressive to me. As in one field, I can understand that you've been there and you even the farming, like the details that he talks about.
Correct.
I found that very amazing. Such diverse fields, and he could bring that out such a realistic manner. That was
so he does. I did read few of his interviews where he says that he has researched a lot for all these things and all that. But one of those questions which they often ask him is like, how do you even write about these people, considering that he was born here, but he, after his undergraduation, he's always lived in London.
Huh,
So-
that's like even more interesting.
Interesting, right?
Yeah,
So they ask, how are you able to understand their feelings and all that? So you know what he replies in a very funny and amusing manner. So he says, I close my eyes and imagine that person and I write about them.
That seems very easy. Deceptively easy.
I will go with the Tulika Madam's observation. It is a well-researched book.
Yes.
If you look at it, actually, he spoke on mathematics.
That also.
Mathematics.
That also. Right. Right.
So, because I found parallel in another book which I read. We all have heard about Srinivas Ramanujan, the mathematical genius. Actually. On him, there is a book, The Man Who Knew Infinity. It is by Robert Kennedy.
Yes.
Maybe I know. So in that actually maximum pages actually are about mathematics, and he is a real mathematical genius. I found some of parallels of that book in these books because it is well researched. When he goes to prime numbers, one square, these and other things. Frankly, I'm weak in mathematics, but I have a love for figures and other things, the passion with which he has worked out. That's what I found. And if ultimately it takes him to that extent actually where almost it follows that Somo is, it is his story runs parallel to that of Srinivas Ramanujan. At very young age, his knowledge and other things, preternatural, what you call it. It comes out, people identify him, people know him. Someone, there is one who takes care of him. There is an eccentric mathematics professor who rears him up, who takes him to his fold, trains him up, and then takes out his papers from his class, forwards them to a mathematician in another country. A call comes from there. They want to accept him in their university, though he's underage. All these things are replica of Srinivas Ramanujan's life. I should strongly. Yes, The Man Who Knew Infinity. If you find time, it's a very good book, actually.
Yes.
Of course,
I
there is
have a copy of the book. I haven't read it, but
Robert Kennedy, he is beautiful. Let us not take care of those mathematics papers because it will be, I don't know about your knowledge. Mathematics, those papers are heavy. Leaving, setting them aside. Two things actually, the mathematics passion he had, and then the faith he had on that goddess Namakkal. Here, Kumbakonam, actually, he was there. They were very beautifully written. So I found parallels in this book of that. And then definitely, as Tulika Madam has said, it is a well-researched book. Otherwise, you can't write so much about mathematics. It's a peculiar subject.
correct.
It's not easy to write about the technical subject. One can write in general. Unless and until specific and precise knowledge, it's difficult on anyone's part to write.
In fact, I thought maybe he studied mathematics in college. I had a feeling maybe Neel Mukherjee studied mathematics. Then when I saw his biography, he's not even done mathematics.
Same impression I had. From slide, I found actually he's qualified only in languages, actually.
Yes.
There was never a science subject or a mathematics subject. That means he has put in a lot of hard work to write this book. Credit goes to him.
Let's, I'll just share some of the quotes. So these are some quotes from Neel Mukherjee and himself. So a great writer doesn't teach you how to write. A great writer teaches you how to look at the world. India is constantly changing. It is the most alive thing in the world. It's alive in a fascinating way and alive in a dangerous way because it will turn around and bite you. It's electric, and the best I feel is sclerotic. That is one of the gifts leaving gave me. I don't think I'll ever be able to write a book set in England. I'm simply not interested. But India continues to fascinate me. It's in my blood in a way nothing is or will be. And it's in the blood sometimes as poison and sometimes as the thing that gives me my very life, both at once.
That's a very nice quote, Archana. I would like to spend a moment on that. I don't know about you because you also went back to India for the first time, right? This year after the pandemic. Yes. So for you, it must have been important. The first trip back home after living abroad is different. And I also went after, the same like a 2.5 year gap. And I am I'm older than you and I've lived outside a lot longer. And so for me, India, I felt I don't have so much pull for India because my parents are no more. So for me, India, I always say that it's like a tourist destination for me, like any other country. But this time I spent a longer time in India. I was there for 3 weeks and I was in 2-3 different cities. And when I came back to Singapore, I felt exactly what is said in this quote. It's like India is like very vibrant. And then when you come back, come out of India, and this time it is Singapore, but I've lived also in the US, there is like a big difference, in the way India gets to you. And it's not just because you grew up there or you're from there. I think it's just that is the energy of India. And I mean, at least I can speak only for urban India. I'm not from the rural spaces. But when I came back here, I realized 2-3 other people, said the same thing, that I have come back and I don't feel anything here. While in India, I felt a lot. I was like really part of it. So maybe like they say, right, you can take the Indian out of India, but you can't take India out of the Indian. So I think
just before the presentation, I was in fact mentioning this very quote to Sarath, and I was telling him, I don't think I can ever write a book which is set in anywhere else but India. So I was just telling him the same thing. And for me, this time I stayed in India for 5 weeks. And just like you, I went to a lot of places. But despite being born and brought up in Chennai and all that, I went, I met my parents, and of course it was wonderful. I was pampered in Chennai and everything. And I just for 5 days, I went to Bombay. But the second I stepped into Bombay, I felt like, okay, I'm back home. And it's so surprising considering that I don't have family over there or anything, but somehow that, as soon, and especially after when I entered my own house, and, though there's a tenant sitting over there and it's definitely no more my own house, but still, I just had that feeling in that whole city, and that whole thing gave me, I'm home among my people. That's what I felt.
Wow, that's so interesting, because I grew up in Bombay and I don't go to Bombay anymore precisely because I don't have, it's not the same. My parents are not there. And even the family I grew up with, my extended family, a lot of people are not there. So this time I went to India, I went to Delhi, I went to Bangalore, but I didn't go to Bombay. And most of the time I don't go to Bombay. But I just felt that I belong in India. I think that was the general takeaway for me this time, which was very surprising to me. It took me by surprise. So I think there is that, where do you feel you belong? And I've been thinking about, fitting in versus belonging, and, how these two terms are different. But I think the diaspora writers who immerse themselves in India for writing, for even like Kiran Desai and all, right? Kiran Desai lives in the US, her mother lived in the UK, I think, and their story is always set in India. So I think there's a lot more of them in through their stories, even though physically they are not based there, or they haven't spent like decades over there. So it's very interesting to see how deep they go into their topic.
True, definitely.
Madam, at the very beginning, you asked me, how do you feel about the book? I said, actually, I feel connected. And I will say 2 instances where I feel actually. In the early 80s, I was working in Calcutta.
Okay.
So from the book, actually, I can connect to 1 or 2 scenes. They happened. If you recollect, Prafulla Nath, actually, he goes in his, the family patriarch, goes in his big car to the factory, he shuts it down. That mill he has closed. And he goes along with his 2 sons. And then 1 assistant, I forgot his name. The scene had a number of dangerous dimensions if you look at. Workers who had not been paid for a year.
Correct.
The owner who was sick, not in control of the situation. The instigator of the strike, Dulal, happens to be his cook's son. He stands outside. And the mass of violent labor reaching towards him to manhandle him. I felt this, I got connected because on one of the occasions, my top boss, in that office, actually, he was rounded up, geared out,
Oh.
And I could feel it actually. I was in that inner circle. For instance, what happens at the top man chooses some people to be in his inner circle to share his feelings or plans, etc., etc. I was one in that, what you call inner coterie or inner circle. I felt this, how they come, how violent they were actually. And he was manhandled, his face still before. He was having wonderful hair, well said, that was falling on his face because he was manhandled and other things. This situation I could connect, number one. Number two, working in office, there is one Mr. Pintu. He works as what I call as head clerk in the transport section of the secretariat, writers building. I will read out actually.
He moves the file from one side of the table to the other side of the table. And he just,
Very correct. You have got it right actually. It is 11 o'clock. And by the time Pintu makes it to his desk, it will be around 12:30. He will chat to his colleagues for an hour. On the route he took to reach his office, to rush in the bus, newspaper headlines, drinking tea and snacks. And it is possible that he picks up a classic in Bengali or poetry book and reads aloud with his personal review. That is what they do in office. And then they will have a lunch break for 2 hours. And 3:30 it will be time again for tea. He will move a pile of files, just madam observed, from one side of the table to the other side. And he feels exhausted with the pressure of work, gossip, and he leaves for home. This I noticed there. In offices, particularly in government offices, I connected with many of the class, and you can't say anything to them. I was their supervisor. Someone advised me, keep quiet, go with them. When you are in Rome, be a Roman, don't put pressure and other things. I saved my skin for having worked for 3 years there. This is what I could connect with the two things immediately.
that is called Adda culture, Bengali Adda culture.
Exactly, it is different altogether. And I have seen actually the one very senior most head clerk, he comes and sings Ravindra Sangeet in office. He reviews a book that he has read in the overnight. He says, this is the character, this is what, and all that. When he will come to office, you have to do office work. Instead, they speak on the books they read or the songs they have sung or whatever that is they are interested in. For me, it was everything new. I went from Odisha, so naturally we were not accustomed to that type of cultural overbearing in office. Office is office, home is home, like that. Cultural activity stage, etc. We had clear divisions of work. There, it's not like that. Here, one of the new applications.
Very good friend of, and it's even more different when you go from Bombay actually.
Achha.
Because Bombay is very fast life, and everyone is working and nothing stops them.
I know. I have my friends in Bombay also.
Yeah.
You know, I have my friends actually. They were Kulkarni and Bunde. So many people I have. They work actually meticulous. Yeah. Even women office, they come in time, they go in time. Half an hour means half an hour. Systematic. I saw them. But after time, because they have to reach far off places through suburban trains and etc. But during the time they are in office, they are giving the best.
Right.
But, I hold that feeling still.
Tulika may be remembering. You remember Payal, right, Tulika?
Yes.
So she had shifted to Calcutta for a very short period of time. I don't know whether you knew it.
No, I didn't.
She just couldn't put up with the whole culture, you know. And her husband also couldn't manage in office this kind of a thing. So they actually very short period of time she was there and then she came back.
I have a different story. My brother, who grew up along with me in Bombay, moved to Calcutta to to start a business, and everyone would look at him and say, like, what are you thinking? Why are you coming from Bombay to Calcutta? That too, to do like your own business. And now that's like 20 years have passed for that. So he's become, he's trying to use his Bombay work ethic in Calcutta. And I don't know, he really has a lot of patience to deal with these people. Yeah. I would lose it. I would totally lose it if I had to work with people who are doing these kind of things in the office.
Correct. It's very, very difficult.
I can add one more point also. In order to be one among them, as I just said, I learned Bengali. And now I can speak Bengali.
Oh, that's a good thing.
And that helped me as a matter of fact, because they say actually that is the most sweetest of languages, Bengali. I learned it. And that made my position for 3 years comfortable. I never had any issue with them.
There was one more interesting quote by Neel Mukherjee. So if you're a novelist and born and raised in India, I think you're going to be in material for the rest of your life. It's a great gift that country gives you.
He's a patriot, I must say.
Yeah.
A strong nationalist. Oh. Is it from any interview, madam?
Yeah, these are from various interviews, in fact. Yeah, different
It's an
interviews.
easy profile of his of the writer.
Yes.
So much attachment.
Yeah. So there is no social cohesion in India. It is one of the most severely hierarchized countries in the world, where the model is you shit on the person below you in the hierarchy and suck up to the person above. It has historically been such always, and I hold out zero hope for the future of any structural change.
That is very depressing.
Very depressing,
Very
but I think
depressing.
it's a very, very, it's so clear, and I think it's very, very true, right? Which is not something we see in other countries. Here, I feel there's a lot more equality in other countries when compared to how it is in our country. Even in the same organization, even in an MNC, the culture in an MNC in India is still a lot different from the culture of an MNC, that same MNC in any other country.
Yeah, that'll be true for all cultures, right? The culture will be different.
Yeah, like I'm talking about like
Same MNC, different offices, you mean? No, yeah, I get that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this kind of a hierarchy and these kind of things you can notice over there, which is not a part of the organization at all. That's not the way the organization works.
I want to think that this is changing, that this is more true in government offices, not so much in. I would like to feel that.
Yeah, but sadly, it is not very true.
No, I think it's different in different countries. I think certainly I can say from having worked in India and US and Singapore, there's a big difference. India, I think everyone knows. I think in the US, the thing is on the surface, it's very egalitarian, right? You know, you don't call anyone sir and ma'am, you don't call anyone doctor and miss, like, you know, you are all first name basis. And you say hello to everyone, you know the janitor by the first name and things like that, right? So on the surface, it's very, very equal, and there is acceptance. Like if you call out your boss saying, you know, you can ask like, why are you telling us to do this or whatever. So I think that's from the school, college, you have that culture. In India, we generally don't question back, you know, or asking too many questions is not good and things like that. So we have the hierarchy is there. Singapore and all has a very different culture. Again, it's Asian. On the surface, it looks Western because it's a developed country, but there is still a lot of ingrained hierarchies. It's just that this particular quote, which is on the screen, it's not, it's more subtle. Let me put it that way. So the hierarchy is still there. It's more subtle. So I think you're right about it will be different in different countries. I think in India, it's just a lot more in your face. Like it's very visible. So people will speak about it. While here and in other places, you have to live there and experience it to see, you know, how it bites. You know, it's not. So for example, like in America, where on the surface everything is fine, when we were talking about Americana, for example, you see how the racial aspect comes into interactions and how people view you. So there is always, I think, humans trying to act superior to their fellow humans, whether it is class, whether it is you know, money, whether it is caste, whatever it is, that tool that you use to draw those distinctions. You know, I am the zamindar and you are the peasant, or whatever it is, right? I think it's just that in India it's more in your face, and of course this story particularly has that angle. So
like even within Bengali community, even within the thing itself, they have their North Calcutta and South Calcutta. So they
The
also
fusion
have,
is there.
That's there
yeah,
everywhere, no? Delhi,
yeah,
Purani Delhi ke
within-
log and the New Delhi people, and
okay.
Even
yeah.
in Bombay, it is ridiculous. Western line and Eastern line.
Oh,
or
Harbour
whatever.
line,
Yeah, it's a
Harbour line and
yeah,
Western line.
yeah. That
There's
is
a
what it
yeah,
is.
true,
Yeah.
absolutely right. And specifically talking about working in offices, I think different offices have different cultures. I mean, it's not, of course, it's always there. The hierarchy system is there, but I think some of the new age offices, like if I worked in an or government, or if I worked in Indian Oil for a very short while, it's a whole different world. I worked in stockholding corporation. That's much more. There's a lot more equality. It's not this bad, and it's like pretty. I've not worked anywhere except India, but yeah, the first name basis, calling everybody the first name except the MD, everyone. So I think different offices will have different cultures. And I again will like to think that the newer offices, except the government offices, which I think very little has changed there. But the cultures are different. And in the journalistic things also, it is there's a lot more equality. Of course, there is still the hierarchy there, but
In journalism,
not,
you mean?
yeah, in journalism, it's not this bad. So
I don't know. I've not heard much about UK. Is it as equal as US? I'm not sure. No, not no idea.
nobody knows.
No offices.
Yeah.
Not sure. Okay, so these are quotes from the book. You take away economic security and the whole pack of cards collapses. Everyone is at each other's throat. All these wanted bourgeois values that prop up society, love, duty, honor, respect, all rest on power relations lubricated by economics. They are the gloss people put on the naked truth, self-interest. Whoever said that time blunts all pain did not quite understand that bluntness can wound as grievously as sharp points and edges. Numbers never lie. One can make them, of course, as one can make anything speak another story in another tongue, but they do not have the inherent falsehood that words carry. I think the way he also, formulates his sentences itself is so good.
Exactly. That just I was going to touch that point.
Yeah.
I was particularly the
Yeah.
Supratik's interrogation in police custody at the end, actually, when a person actually who was almost looking like a college lecturer or a bank manager. That was an intelligent piece of writing.
Correct.
The way he gets interrogated, the way he questions are put in a disarming manner, it was really good. And the disposition of this interrogator gave the Supratik as confused. And at the end, actually, the interrogator is successful. And the quotation goes, the man reads Supratik as if his head has become transparent glass and thoughts inside it a lean possession of simple large words. That was really good. The way questions are asked, and he cannot answer them, but answers in a disarming manner, unpretentious way was questioned. That I like very much. And he leaves
towards the end, but towards the end, I had to really skip a few paragraphs. It was getting so disturbing. I think the way.
Yeah, I skipped pages, lots of them. The torture.
I also disturbed because particularly that interrogation, physical violence. Actually, I was not able to contain it.
Yeah, that was unreadable.
I was not happy reading that. I felt actually opening was also morbid with Nitya's suicide and killing his family, and ending is also like that.
Yes.
I thought actually beginning and end points are definitely morbid and not that encouraging. I was disturbed. It touches your sensibilities. It was very graphic. I don't know why he went in that graphic. He should have said maybe that was a requirement for the book and other things. And this interrogator asks a question we can also ponder over. You see, if a poor man gets exploited, he has got a reason to protest against the society and other things. He asks Supratik, you are well read, you are a rich man, you have all comforts. What made you to go and to the forest and assist those poor people? What is the logic for that? He asks actually. And that is a question everyone has to answer. Why? What motivates people who are very comfortable placed in society go and work for a cause of the type? That is it. Why you leave that comfort zone in your life? That is the question you ask.
Correct. But I think now already like whatever little bit of the Naxal movement is left, now it's only with the tribals and the peasants and all. So
Yes, yes.
no more are there any urban intellectuals or something like that who are part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All superstructures, including the family, rest on the base of one thing and one thing only: economics. The family is the first and the primary unit of oppression and exploitation. This also I felt was so true in some respects, at least. The enemy inside is far more powerful than the enemy outside. One generation builds, the next generation consumes it to nothing. That is the abiding truth of life.
But this got questioned by his son. He asks, you have created, you also destroyed by unintelligently mortgaging this and that and other things. He questions taking a loan. You have created, okay, but you also destroyed it. How can you say we are responsible for that?
Yeah,
it is a wrong
your
decision.
wrong decision.
Yes, yes. That is there.
There is a large gap between being an activist out of the idealism that comes from books, conversations, the fire of youth, and being one because you have lived through the depredations that life has thrown at you. I think that was also, I think, very true, and which is exactly what you were talking about now. What use did it serve to emphasize the unbridgeable gap between the lives of these people and people of our kind? It only consoled and comforted the middle classes that their lot was better. They will tell you that they want to know the details of the daily hardships of rural life in order to be aware, in order to be moral. But the appetite really was for propping up their idea of themselves as people with sympathetic souls and sensitive social consciousness. It was not awareness they were after. It was the reinforcement. I don't know how far it's true, but yeah. Not for the first time in his life, he felt himself fall into the gap between feelings and their articulation in language. They would all die one day, and it will come a lot sooner in their lives than in others. But it was better to die fighting, like a cornered wildcat, than crushed underfoot like an unseen worm. You kick a dog, it will run away, but you keep kicking it and kicking it, it will have no option but to bite you back, just to stop being kicked. This is Supratik's words, Supratik's thoughts, I would say. You're eating like a sparrow nowadays. You've hardly touched your food. You give me so much. There are so many dishes. Where so many? One dal, one fry, one vegetable dish, a bit of fish, that's it. And you don't think that's a lot. You've eaten like this all your life, she said, baffled. Don't you agree we eat too much? Who, you and I? She asked, still puzzled. No. By we, I mean all of us. Everyone in our social and economic class. And I think that's so true.
Supratik and his mother.
Yeah, their conversations were very interesting because she just doesn't identify with why he gets so angry.
Yeah.
She just cannot understand his thought process at all.
Correct.
And she's coming from a good place, but she can't understand what he is thinking or what.
Why does he need to feel this? You know.
Exactly. Yeah, she just can't understand, and he gets frustrated because she's so narrow. Like her thing, like my son should eat well and my son should be happy. So their interactions were, and he feels for her sometimes.
He does.
Yeah, he does. But mostly he just ends up very annoyed that how can she not understand what he's trying to say. It was a very interesting, all their interactions, I found them interesting. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And in fact, there's this one scene just before he's shot to death where you know, where they just tell him you run.
Right.
Yes,
you go. And that time there's something which crosses his mind and he thinks of his mother. And immediately his eyes water, you know, and he thinks, how do I ask her forgiveness? How am I going to ask her forgiveness for, you know, everything, for whatever he's told her, done? And there's also that other scene where the police come and take him away, and she says, you know, you take me away, you take me away, I am responsible for everything. So
That's a very heartbreaking scene.
I think, yeah, that's it. So this was the research paper, Writing the Subalterns, Neel Mukherjee's The Life of Others and Lives of Others and the Naxalite Movement. It was, I'm not able to pronounce this, Carlotta Maria Beretta from University di Bologna, Italy. So it was really interesting. It's a 15 pages paper. It's freely available online. So if you're interested, you can pick it up and have a read of it. Yes.
Okay, for now, next, what we are going to read?
So last time, I think we skipped over something and we chose this, right? We skipped over V.S. Naipaul's book, I think, right?
Can we read something real classic?
Sure.
Like Thomas Hardy or Tulika?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Looks like you both have already decided something.
No.
Please tell us that. Please tell us. We will go along with
No. We were thinking that as in some basically English or US classics like Thomas Hardy, of course, and there was a picture of Dorian
George
Gray.
Eliot.
Yeah, George Eliot. One of those.
George Eliot. George Eliot is Middlemarch, is it?
Middlemarch.
But Middlemarch, I think, is one big, huge.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive.
Yeah, it's massive. No. I mean, I'm just
something like that. Yeah.
Just
that was like off the top of our heads. We were thinking.
Okay. Picture of Dorian Gray is a good idea.
Oscar Wilde. Yeah.
Oscar Wilde. He's a good read.
Okay. Oscar Wilde.
What else were the options last time? I don't remember. I remember.
We all remember Naipaul.
Right.
Naipaul was one thing. In fact, Neel Mukherjee's third book, which is called A State of Freedom, is he says that it is a response to Naipaul's book called In Freedom State.
Okay.
Naipaul's book is called In Freedom State. So Neel Mukherjee says that one of the greatest Indian writers of the last century is V.S. Naipaul, and my book is like a response to that one. The third book.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was
shall we go for Naipaul then?
And I didn't know this, but Naipaul had a brother.
Yeah. He is a much better writer.
Exactly.
I have to say, Shiva Naipaul. He has written 3 books: Chip Gatherers, Firefly, and North of South.
Okay. So I didn't know this. They had asked Neel Mukherjee, who is one of those writers who need recognition, but who has not been given the kind of due recognition they should get. And he says one of them is Shiva Naipaul. Not one of them. He mentions only Shiva Naipaul, in fact.
Yeah.
And he says the 2 reasons for that is Shiva Naipaul, I think he died very early.
Very young. He died very young. Yeah.
So he's written only those 3 books. And second thing is obviously he's shadowed by V.S. Naipaul. So
V.S.
Naipaul not got the kind of recognition which he should get.
Yeah, I think we all should read then Shiva Naipaul.
Yes, I shall vote for it. Because for him, is the first time reading that will be.
Yes.
I have not read him.
Even let me just research which among the 3 are good or something like that. And then I'll put that. So maybe
something that's readable.
Yeah.
No, Shiva Naipaul is readable. He just shares the surname with V.S. Naipaul. That's all, but he's different.
Why V.S. Naipaul is not so easily readable, is it?
No, don't go by me. I'm Paul Thoreau person, actually. So Paul Thoreau, he never got along with Naipaul, so I'm biased. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, I still didn't understand the whole thing, but okay.
I think V.S. Naipaul was not even a nice person, I believe, but I think obviously we should read him.
So Neel Mukherjee says he was not a nice person towards the later part of his life. Initially, he's a very nice person, is what he thinks. I don't know. He seems
this
to be
book
a big
is
fan
a
of
hard.
the Naipaul brothers.
This House for Mr. Biswas is very long and very I don't know. I'm Chicago vibes, so I'm scared to. I just feel it might not be a very interesting read. Of course, I've just read little bits of it, so. But
I
anyway,
have read the whole book, by the way. I have completed
really?
my,
Okay.
yeah, I have
But you
read
didn't like
House.
it.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay,
That
then
is the
let's
thing.
forget it. It's okay. Fine. So let me. You don't want to do Middlemarch, right? Is any?
No, I think Middlemarch will be too much. This one was
Middlemarch will
very
be too much.
Yeah,
Really
because
heavy.
that is, it's heavy. We can go for Thomas Hardy
Have
something.
any of you read what was the name of it? Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, Gone with the Wind.
Mitchell.
All of us
James
have.
Mitchell.
Margaret Mitchell.
Margaret Mitchell.
Yeah.
I'm good
Margaret
with that.
Mitchell.
Very good. Yeah, let's read
I
that.
kind of love the book.
Yeah, that we all can read because that's an easy
Huge.
read.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge, but that's an easy.
But it's easy. Read.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Hey, is Thornbirds also a classic? Is it considered a classic?
Yeah. Whatever we say is a classic is a classic.
Classic.
That's also very readable. As in, or is it Australian? Suchi, have you read it?
Yeah, Australian.
Yeah.
Colin McCulley, na?
Colin McCulley. Yeah, that is also very. I somehow connect these two books in my mind: Gone with the Wind and Thornbird. Similar, like bigger farms and
really? Okay.
complicated, families.
And what I'm realizing is, like, if it's a book which I've already read and I'm reading it again, I seem to be discovering a lot more about the book.
Always.
It happens every time.
Yeah.
Especially with this time with the Lives of Others, it felt like completely a different. How did I miss all this the previous time? That's what I was thinking, So good. So let me, I'll send out the poll either today or tomorrow. And
sure.
Before Monday, let's decide and we'll quickly have the next discussion.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.